What's up, YouTube? It's me, Joe Schmmo, and I'm back for another Joe's Corner, and first one of the year, and I'm here with a very special guest, as you see down there. I'm here with Alex Hodges. He is a figurehead in the Weiss community, as well as, I believe, in the Pokemon community, and he does a lot of things on TikTok, but I'll let him explain himself. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm just happy to finally be able to talk about Weiss Schwarz for longer than 15 minutes. It feels good, man.
Well, I'm glad. Tell people about yourself in case they haven't come across your content, don't know who you are.
So I started making videos about shiny cardboard 4 years ago when work slowed down during the pandemic, and I never stopped. And made about 1,000 videos now about Pokemon, video games, manga, anime, and Weiss Schwarz became part of that mix when I started collecting it in late 2020. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, it's a hobby for me. I work full time outside of shiny cardboard and advertising, and that's a lot of stress. It's really cool to get to, I don't know, unwind at the end of the day by talking something I actually care about, which is shiny cardboard, card games, video games, etc. That's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Weiss has been one of those outlets, and for me, I started with Card Fight, which is also a Bushiroad game.
Oh,
a lot of people know
game.
that I'm avid and I do stuff for base damage and go to regionals and stuff like that. But we'll get to the card stuff. That's going to be the nit and gritty of it. First, I want people to know about you. How did you discover anime? How did you get into video games? How does that evolve into TCG? That's what. Usually, there's a correlation. Usually, it's like a ripple effect. So I guess a good way to start would be with anime. When did you discover or realize you're watching anime?
I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and it goes deeper than I even realized. So I think if you're as old as I am, you remember a time when the only programming on television, which was our only option because there was no internet in the early 90s, basically you were stuck with cable television, and the programming for kids was unbelievably mid. It was the dark ages of programming. And, and people pretend like Scooby-Doo was awesome back when it was happening. Rocky and Bullwinkle was peak. I'm sorry, those shows were absolute garbage. So I wake up one morning, I'm like 10 years old, and it's 7 a.m. and I'm like, God, what am I even doing here? I turn on the TV and this little show called Monster Rancher is on. And I'm like, Monster Rancher, hey, you got this mochi little thing going on. You got Tiger, Golem, Pixie. Let me check this show out. Maybe it'll be cool. And I slowly start realizing this, and this is like the 98 or 99. I don't even remember the year. I start realizing, wait a minute, Mochi did not know that attack in the last episode. Mochi is leveling up right now. And young me was so seeing this kind of power scaling, this character development was so mind blowing because it was everything missing from Scooby-Doo, from Animaniacs, from Rocky Bullwinkle, where if you missed the entire first half of the season of Scooby-Doo, it was just like, who cares? Like, he wants Scooby snacks, Shaggy's still high. That is always going to be the case, right? So Monster Rancher introduces power creep and character development to very young me. Pokemon comes out shortly afterward, and you can imagine what happens next. You have the Pokemon boom, and I was swept away with that. And so there's always been a love for the Pokemon video games, the Pokemon card game. I used to play at a local Borders Books, which is a chain of bookstores, which is no longer here. We used to play big Pokemon tournaments there. And so it's weird. It's like you said, it really started off with anime and then rippled into card games and video games because Pokemon Red, I probably plugged, 100 hours into that game as like an 11-year-old. So yeah, man, it's like it really started 98, 99. And then, it just went on from there.
Just kind of flourished and carried on into today. Yeah, I get that. For me, it was, I think when I started realizing it, I stayed up late and then, we ended up watching Toonami was like the big thing for me.
Best.
And then I kept, seeing Inuyasha, Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, all that stuff. Never really realized until I got into high school. I was like, oh, wait, that's anime. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've been watching Pokemon. I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! I've been watching all this stuff. I didn't realize that was anime, And then it kind of just escalated and, escalated or derailed from there. One of the two, but we ended up in TCG.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, but it's funny to see that a lot of TCG player people, even with like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff, they found through anime, not this anime itself. A lot of cases, so like with Yu-Gi-Oh, I know a couple people that were watching like Inuyasha and stuff, and their friends were like, "Hey, I got this cool card game that has like those kind of same looks on it," and it started an escapade for them. So. Well, I'm glad that anime ended up in TCG for you. So, I take it because of Pokemon, that's how you discovered TCG then, since you started playing back at the Borders?
Yeah, 1999, man, was my first card game. And my first tournament story is like one of my favorites because my mom was like, kind of like this super supportive force in my life, but she was never so like into it like some parents where they like learn the game too so that it can help their kids progress. But my mom was someone who'd be like happily drive me to the tournament. So my first Pokemon tournament, all I knew was you needed 60 cards. I had never seen the card game played before. I'm 11 years old. So I show up to the tournament with a deck that was absolutely unplayable. Like I had no concept of ratios, absolutely anything. And I will never forget going into round one and like just not having a hand at all and realizing in real time, like, like a pass turn, like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. I have like 10 fire energies and I've got a bunch of psychic Pokemon. So, so that was my experience. And the worst part was, and this is like me on some, like me just being petty and weird, but my opponent was this very young kid. I still think about him to this day. And homie had a mole right here on his cheek that was like the size of a quarter. And I swear to God, he had bangs growing out of it. Like I've to this day, never seen anything like it. And I will never forget him beating me and how upset, frustrated, and grossed out I was all at the same time.
It's one of those core childhood memories. I get it.
I got the Venusaur promo art though that day, which was super sick. I was so upset though because the kid had Ancient Mew and I didn't have the Ancient Mew, and I definitely wanted it.
Oh God, that's just there's some memories like that, because for me it was like that, but with Yu-Gi-Oh. I had the schoolyard experience, so when I started, everyone knew how to play but me. And it was kind of the same thing. I was like, well, I got all these like 8-star monsters. I can't really play them. I passed her. Yeah, it's the same thing. That's
like blackluster ritualing, and they're like, yeah, you can't do that, bro.
You can't just throw it out there. I don't care what the show says, but this is how it goes, you know? The Battle City experience.
The format in like Battle City is just like so absolutely busted, dude. Just like every card is so broken. It's like it's 12 o'clock in the daytime, which means this card is now 10,000 HP. And you're like, what?
I get 10,000 extra power because on this day, a certain time, a certain year, I meet the requirements.
Oh my God, based Yu-Gi-Oh, dude.
The true Yu-Gi-Oh experience, man.
Yeah.
So what was, once you got into childhood, once you got into adulthood, did you end up losing interest and falling out of TCG and getting back into it? Or was it kind of a constant love all the way through like middle school, high school, that kind of thing?
So the plan A in my life was to become a skate photographer and filmer. And I pursued that for a really long time. And, that took over everything. And now I would still keep up with anime in the meantime, but that cut out all the time for TCG, game playing, etc. Mm-hmm. So, you know, during the entire like black and white era, like I was just out with, you know, skateboarders, filming, videoing, getting my career started at the ad agency I work at now. And the grind was just so heavy at that point, and like the lifestyle was so different that it just, there was very little time to be going to my locals, ripping packs and playing card games. You know, I wanted to be like an amateur professional skateboarder for a long time. And then, you know, at the age of 18, just realized like, look, you're cool to skate at the skate park and look great doing it, but like, you're never going to be at the levels that the guys you're working with are at. So yeah, you know, the priorities changed, and, you know, I kind of fell out of TCG until probably 2016. Mm-hmm.
So with that, I'm assuming you dived right back into Pokemon to start with?
Yeah, we were at Dave & Buster's. Evolutions had just dropped. No, it not just dropped. Evolutions got reprinted like around like the Shaman EX times. Mm-hmm. And the set flooded the market because like Pokemon Go created this initial wave of demand where Pokemon almost had like a 2020 boom, but it was like early. So they reprint Evolutions, Evolutions floods the market, like beyond battle styles, beyond Astral Radiance, beyond anything we're seeing right now. Like Evolutions was, you could just throw a rock and hit a booster box and it was $80. So I was at Dave & Buster's with my wife, then girlfriend, and I had so many tickets because my goal back then, like my side quest, was to get a place. I wanted to be the guy that walked into the prize section and walked out with a PlayStation 4. I wanted to know what that felt like to slap my card on the table and be like, a PlayStation 4, please. Like that on to this day, I really want to do that. But so I get Evolutions booster packs because they were 200 tickets. I wish I would have been a creator at this point because people don't believe me. You could buy Evolutions booster packs for 200 tickets at Dave & Buster's, like as cheap as a plastic ring. And so I got my Evolutions booster packs. It was the first Pokemon cards I'd gotten in a long time. And I pulled the Dragonite gold, was it an EX? I can't even remember. It was the gold Dragonite card. I looked up the price. I found TCG Players, the first time I'd ever seen that site, and it was $15. And I was like, Pokemon cards are worth $15? I was like, but I just went to Dave & Buster's and I got this for 200 tickets. Like, there's no way that's possible. By the way, I'm going to correct myself. It was 350 tickets. I'm thinking of something else. 350 tickets. Huge difference. World of difference. Especially when you have like 30,000 tickets. But anyway, so yeah, Dave & Buster's, market flooded with Evolutions. I discovered Dragonite's $15 and that kickstarted everything.
So if that was, yeah, you said it was around the Pokemon Go era, and I remember that era clear as day. Because I was one of the ones that was like, you know what, let me get back into it. I have Emerald, I have Black and White on the DS, but there's nothing like going outside and flicking the screen. So, Were you part of that craze too, since we're still talking about it? Or did you get outside and get on your phone and do it, or did you just like ignore it completely?
I had 2 weeks on Pokemon Go, and I gave it up pretty quickly. It was just too hard with work.
Yeah, I get that. Also, I do want to say, being a professional like skateboard photographer is the most Cali thing I've heard in a long time, because that isn't a concept on the East Coast. And when you said, I was like, that's a very California thing I just heard.
You have no idea. Dude, speaking of Cali things, I told a 16-year-old content creator the other day that she needed to niche down, and immediately my eyes rolled into the back of my head, and I'm like, you are literally disgustingly Californian for saying that.
Oh, that's so good.
Like I'm actually like I'm just gonna go to like I don't know, man. I'm beyond saving.
So everything eventually leads to Weiss Schwarz. So you said 2020 hit, the big vid hit, everyone was stuck at home. Is that when you were like, well, I got time, why not pick up Pokemon? I'm assuming that's what, like, kind of.
It sounds so crazy to say this, but 2020 was like a hard reset on my life. I had been working 50 to 55 hours a week for longer than I could remember. Well, basically since 2008. I'd been made a partner at my company, so I had no free time. I was 32 years old. I was married. Like, I was basically just set up to be a very vanilla career adult. And luckily, I knew how to video edit because of the skateboarding, because of everything. So I had all this free time. Like, when everything locked down, like, if you're an advertiser in 2020, you were sweating bullets because you're like, wait a minute, our experiential budget is completely done for the year. No one knows if their companies are going to survive, because this is before we understood the economic impacts of free money for everybody. There was really like a fear that my company would just go under, because we would just have clients call in and be like, hi, we can't advertise with you anymore because literally there's no money and the world is just shutting down. So I'm like trying not to have a panic attack at the end of every day. And so I found this cathartic exercise, which was creating content about stuff that I was doing. And I had so much free time that I could just do this all day. And I was used to such high level editing and directing projects that a format like TikTok, I could excel at and kind of stand out on. So it was also really nice because the whole experience helped me understand TikTok, which I then brought into the agency. And then we got to facilitate like services for our clients to TikTok, which was really great for my company. Synergy. But yeah, like the whole thing was like, if COVID never happened, you and I wouldn't be talking. I never would have made a single video. about Weiss or Pokemon or anything. Like it would just be, I would just still be doing my agency grind and that would be it.
It's a story for everyone. A lot of people, especially during the area, it's because of COVID. There was a lot of bad things that came out of COVID, while there was a lot of good that came out of it. There was a peak in content creation, such as Twitch and then YouTube, as well as TikTok. But because of that, it affected how you are today. Even 4 years after the pandemic officially started for the world, you are still making content. You're still thriving in the space. You're still making waves, still doing a lot of things. Now, how did you find Weiss during the pandemic? Because that also sets a whole nother barge, because you helped get Weiss out there. People found Weiss because of you. You, especially like when Disney 100 dropped, you were making content on that, and a bunch of other things. There was a lot of sets that dropped during the pandemic that you did content on that helped flourish and get people out, like, to know the game. So how did you find the game?
Like super, I mean, again, it's like a series of random events that were all just kind of perfect. So the one thing that was not closed during the pandemic in Southern California was basically local game shops and the Frankenson collectible show. Mm-hmm. So if people aren't familiar with the Frankenson collectible show, it's basically like this Costco that got revamped to be like a dollar store Akihabara in Japan. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like we literally carbon copied all of Akihabara and we put it in a Costco. So it's games, it's card games, it's video games, it's anime art, it's sports cards, it's card protection, it's old manga, it's books, it's jewelry that's themed around cartoons, it's statues, it's figures of all your favorite stuff, like plushes. So Frankenstein show was wide open and no one else had anything to do. So I'm at the Frankenstein show doing my Pokemon thing, because my Frankenstein's content, my Pokemon content at the Frankenstein show specifically did super well. And it was obvious because it was like there was no conventions happening in the world. So I basically, for about 2 years, had a monopoly on experiential content, aka content where someone goes to a place and does a thing with a bunch of other people and there's cool anime weeb stuff everywhere. So I'm at the Frankenstein show with my buddy Cole Plante, and he sees a Mona SP at JKTCG, which is now Tress's Collectibles. Or I don't know if Mike would even, say JKTCG is now Tress's Collectibles. Tress's Collectibles is basically just the same booth as JKTCG with one of the former owners. Shout out to my brother Mike. My friend Cole did not play Persona 5, and he called Mona the funny cat. He saw the Mona SP, and he said, I want the funny cat. And he asked June, the former owner of JKTCG, how much is the cat? And June was like $300 or something, like $400. And I was like, what do you mean Mona's $400? Like that, like I was offended. I was like, I've never heard of this card game. I love Persona 5. This bastard's never even played Persona 5 and refuses to play Persona 5, despite all the times I peer pressured him to play Persona 5. And he bought the funny cat. He bought Mona. And I'm like an expensive Pokemon chase card in 2020 from a modern set is like $270, $300 for like a Charizard, right? Like a Champion's Path, something like in that era, kind of comparable, was like $350, $400. I'm like, you just spent Charizard dollars on the funny cat from this card game I've never heard of. And then he bought a Megumin SSP for $380. And I'm like, Konosuba? Konosuba? What is happening? And I'm like, what is this booth? Why are there anime cards? Why are they expensive? Why are you paying this money for this game I've never heard of? My brain spiraled. And that day, I bought a bunch of double rares from Sword Art Online and Persona 5, obviously. And that was my introduction to Weiss Schwarz, was my friend Cole wailing on sign cards. And the second I found out that there was voice actor signatures, Weiss Schwarz is kind of like that HGTV product idea, where it's like such a good idea that you thought of it before it existed, and then you realize it exists, and you're like, oh, I got to buy it.
Well, it exists. I got to get it now. That's good. That's a good story. I love that story. So, we're still in the era of the pandemic. You're getting into Weiss. you start noticing the card market starting to fluctuate, like a lot.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on the post-pandemic card market and the Logan Paul effect for Pokemon, which is what I like to call it? Because after Logan Paul, was it Logan or Jake? I think it was Logan. They bought the very expensive base set Charizard to make a bling chain out of it. Everyone suddenly thought, you know, I can do that too. I can sell an expensive card. I got that in my closet over here. From a creator standpoint, how hard did it become to make Pokemon stuff? And like, what's your opinion on the market now because of that?
So I have like one of the most unique perspectives on this ever, because I work at an ad agency and part of my ad agency is representing artists. So some of my artists saw the content that I was making and they were like, wait a minute, do I need to buy Pokemon too? And I actually, so I want to preface this by saying, because Logan did cause a boom, that is inarguable, but Logan got in because a boom had already occurred. So from 2019 to May of 2020, there was a serious uptick in vintage Pokemon. I remember the first time that someone in a Facebook group offered an unlimited Team Rocket box for $1,000, and it was just laugh react central. Wow, you want $1,000 for that box? That box is 500. Like, the overreaction would, by today's standards, drive people insane. Like, back then, you could buy an unlimited base set booster box for $2,500. So all of a sudden, prices started ticking up. That is when Logan actually went, oh, like, there's a boom happening here, and if I bring attention to this boom, like, is this going to make the boom happen faster? So the kind of suburban market manipulating that was kind of happening with social media was like, I saw this coming from a mile away. So by the time the Logan boom happened, I mean, as a content creator, it was easy for me because I already knew everybody. I was in Southern California. I was in one of the few places in the world where you could still get product, still make Champions Path openings, because I knew the stores, I knew Frank & Sons. You know, it was just the easiest time in the world to get views for me, because it was like, I knew everybody. I knew all the players and stuff like that. I mean, I think with all of that happening, like kind of in the rearview mirror, it's pretty clear that Logan's intentions with Pokemon was always about making money. It was always about stonking. It was always basically the most straw man interpretation of every single thing he was doing, what ended up being correct. And I feel dumb because I think for the first 2 years, even knowing what I knew, that I think I wanted to believe that Logan Paul truly had the same fascination with the lore, with the IP, with the products that many of us had. But I think it just turns out ultimately that, it's about, you know, it was about liquid marketplace, and it was about, you know, all the big brain schemes and the ripping ships for $450,000 and all that nonsense.
So I also noticed during the pandemic as well, around the same time, that Weiss cards, the amounts started going up. And the waifu tax that was already there. And for those who don't know, waifu tax usually centers around the hot characters of a set. So like with Sword Art, it would be Asuna, Leafa, or Sinon, or Alice with the most recent set from SAO. If we go to Konosuba, it'd be one of the 3 main girls. But usually it comes down to their sign cards and being very expensive. There's also that waifu tax in Card Fight when they started doing SPs and bridal variants and stuff with the Bermuda Triangles and the Lyrica Monasteria. Those would be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And 2020 also really saw the uptick of graded cards as well, which I know you have a couple, which I'm still very jealous about the couple you got, but they're very good.
Thank you.
What's your opinion on the waifu tax with the pandemic market? Because to me, there's a lot of cards that were $5 to $10, like extra Love Live cards that weren't even worth their salt when it came out. Now they're a couple $100s, and then the couple $100 from before that are now a couple $1,000s. What do you think about that? Do you think that's going to fix itself, or you think it's going to stay? Is it going to get worse? What's your opinion on that?
So I'm like, and this could be me like being super vanilla morality guy right now. I'm not trying to be super boring when I say this stuff because I know how to have fun too. And I know a lot of the time people joke around about stuff or people use slang and they don't really know what it means. I just want to preface this with saying like, I get super bothered as someone that was trying to buy Extra Battle Day Lily, like way before anyone cared about Pokemon trophies. Like people cared about Illustrator Pikachu. Nobody cared about modern Pokemon trophies when I was trying to buy Extra Battle Day Lily. I seriously don't like when people are like Lily waifu. And a lot of people say this stuff like very like it might be something where they truly just think the word waifu is synonymous with like female chase and they don't understand waifu literally means wife, right? Like Lily is canonically like 12. So like when I have like guys and even girls kind of in my circles being like, I'm going for Lily waifu, part of me is like it's a little cringe. It's a little, you know, like maybe say best girl. I say best girl Nino. I love best. I'm just being honest. She is the best girl. It is what it is. Shout out to Miku fans. But like, so with waifu specifically, it's like a conversation that I want to have, but like, I don't think people are ready for because it's like, there shouldn't be any ambiguity about whether or not you're attracted to a 12-year-old looking canonically 12 Lily. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
In Weiss, like when people are like, yo, Taiho waifu, it's like, damn straight, Taiho's hot as hell. Like, and also cannot like not canonically because she's a ship, but like, you know, she's like a 20. She looks like she's 20 something, and she's good. You know, she's got some big bazookas on that starboard. So it's like okay, it's understandable. So anyway, with that out of the way, waifu tax to me in Weiss Schwarz makes sense because Weiss Schwarz English was printed very short relative to all the other card games, right? Like. There's so like I'm someone who spent an unfathomable amount of money on Weiss Schwarz. And I still can't find the stuff that I want because there's none, like it doesn't exist. A card is on eBay right now for the first time in 8 months. I need this card in a BGS 10 so my OCD can purr. And it's the first clean copy I've seen of this card in so damn long. And in Pokemon, that's not a thing, right? It's like, oh my gosh, well, with the Skyla trainer came out. Oh my God, the Skyla. Oh, it's the Gita. Oh, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. It's like, there shouldn't be a waifu tax because in Pokemon, there's 1,000 copies of every single card that you want. Weiss Schwarz was a small game with small print that got big, but the print stayed the same. So that tax makes perfect sense. In Pokemon, I think it's completely artificial. It's people on the hype train at 100 miles per hour and getting owned by people that know better. I see it happen all the time. It's depressing. And dude, we just saw it with Extra Battle Day Lily trophy card. Sold for $90,000 and now it's selling for 35. So a guy lost 60 grand in a month and a half. That's real life. That sucks. It's crazy.
The numbers always get me. The numbers always get me, man. Props to the people who are like, I have the spare money, I'ma spend it. But like to me, in a relative term, 95 grand is life-changing money. I could solve a lot of things with that kind of money.
1,000%.
I couldn't fathom spending on one single piece of cardboard. Like I'm not in that mindset, and I don't think I'll ever be. But so let's go into happier thoughts. That's not people losing life savings on money. So with the cards, you do a lot of pack openings. What is one of the best and most favorite pulls you've ever gotten? Like, what is one of those memories that you'll be sitting in your chair with your grandkids and be like, yeah, this is the peak moment for me, at least so far, because the journey's never over. But for right now, what is like the best moment that you will keep telling?
So there's a content creator in Pokemon named Leon Hart, and he had an event in Dallas. It was a event where everyone, in theory, would get a vintage Pokemon booster pack at the event for $1 or like $3. Selling them at like MSRP at the event. You'd go on stage. You had great people there like Super Duper Danny, Real Breaking Nate. They'd hand you the microphone. You'd open your pack in front of a crowd of like 1,000 people. Beautiful event. So Lee invited me to come out, and I'm like, Lee, I know you have a limited number of packs. So I'm going to bring my own vintage booster pack because I want to open a vintage booster pack there, but I don't want to be like, I get to open packs all day long. I don't want to take away from some kid that. So I go on eBay and I find a midweight, like literally not even heavy, a midweight base set booster pack. And I buy it. It was like $412, which at that point was a steal because it was deemed not heavy. It was like 20.96 grams. I go, all the kids open their packs, and Lee goes, Alex, energy, aren't you going to go on stage and open your pack? And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. So I go on stage. I have one pack that is midweight. There's a Charizard in it. And that's a 1 in 15, by the way. Like that is, we had a 1 in 15 shot, and I'd never pulled a Charizard for myself in my life, and I had one pack. And it was at the Leonhardt pop-up shop. It was, I cannot tell you how magical that day was for me. I mean, I have more Weiss stories than I can count. Like, just look at if you want to see my greatest Weiss pulls of all time, just go on TikTok. You'll see all of it. But like, no, for me, opening a sealed product and having that feeling of, Arceus blessed us, like that was the day.
That was because all the stars were aligned. You were at one of the big events of the year where everyone was getting a chance to actually get this kind of the similar feeling, and then you pulled the one card that you've always wanted on top of
that I've never pulled. Yeah, and what was crazy is so few people actually pulled Charizards at that event. The only other person that so if I would have gone right and got an event pack of base set, I likely would have pulled nothing. I would have gotten a computer search, right? Because one other person, a buddy of mine named Basic Trainer, was the only person at the whole show to pull a Charizard from a pack that was provided by the show. So my insistence on going out of my way to pay more ended up like karmically coming back immediately. And then now that card's signed by Arita, which was a dream come true because I always wanted I've owned Charizard signed by Arita before, but the idea of having an Arita I pulled with my hands out of a pack that is also signed by Arita, like that is personal collection forever. Platinum trophy, you're done,
That's going to be sitting on a shelf until the end of time, pretty much. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, man, for me, it was kind of similar. I pulled, what was it? It was an Nozomi SP at a regionals. I bought a random pack.
Oh, nice.
And I was just, it was, the end of regionals was going on. Top 8 was playing. I was heading out the door. And then I saw they had some Love Live packs. So I was like, yeah, I'll do a rip. I'll see what happens. And bada bing, the Chase Nozomi that I've been wanting from the first set of Love Live, just right there.
Must be nice.
Sitting there freaking out in the corner, but... So with that, let's dive into the Weiss side because I really want to pick your brain about stuff.
Yeah.
Playing Weiss Schwarz, how does it compare to other TCGs? Now, mechanic wise, it's something different because I feel like it pulls from a bunch of different games. But you playing as you've played Pokemon, and I'm pretty sure you probably ended up dabbling in other TCGs.
Yeah, I played everything.
What do you feel like on a scale compared to others? Where would you put Weiss?
So I have very limited time to play card games, and my choice of card game right now that I mainline is Weiss Schwarz. I have Pokemon Live on my phone. I play Cardfight Vanguard. Shout out to Seraph. By the way, Cardfight, people don't know this. I used to write articles about Cardfight, and I never get any credit for that on IGN. Ooh. But granted, I was a ghost author, so I they would always credit me as IGN staff, and I was like, you bastards, I have a name. But like I first of all, Pokemon, Cardfight, Flesh and Blood, Yu-Gi-Oh, all fantastic card games. They're incredible. There is something about the thrill of Weiss Schwarz that I can only compare to poker, where you have, it's like you're gambling, but there's skill expression in the gamble, if that makes sense. Like, I used to play poker at a fairly high level and can still play pretty profitably, but I don't because I get the same itch from Weiss. And Weiss is obviously a lot less risk. So Weiss for me is my number one card game of all time. Like, I picture, did you ever see Death Note?
Yes.
So, in the beginning when Ryuk is in the Shinigami world and he's looking at the other Shinigami and they're all playing games and they just play games for eternity. I imagine a scenario where I die and become a Shinigami and I just play Weiss Schwarz with my buddies for all time and we're good. I always wonder what those Shinigami are playing because it looks like they're playing dice or something like that. They just gamble.
Yeah,
I would play Weiss Schwarz. I would play Weiss Schwarz, never sleeping, 24 hours a day, because there is something about the chaos of Weiss Schwarz. And I will say this because a lot is made of the RNG in Weiss Schwarz, where a lot of cynical 10 years long players will kind of flippantly throw out like, if you got the two best players, it comes down to luck, it comes down to draws. There's no question that RNG is a factor. That said, in Pokemon, if you get your Cramorant out and you flip tails a bunch of times, you're stone cold fucked. There's RNG there. Like, it's not like, by the way, Yu-Gi-Oh! There's also RNG. You can be literally dead on turn one. It's just a fact. So there's skill expression and there's RNG in all these games. I'd say that, yes, the level of RNG in Weiss Schwarz is incredibly high, and a lot of the times it is a coin flip between the best players. But I do believe in Weiss Schwarz, there's like a learning curve towards the top that is so faint, most never even discover it, where you start getting into understanding your instances of damage and the output of damage and your own health at that point. Like, if I'm triple marining, I know that I would rather be I'd rather my opponent's health be at 3 than at 3-1 because of the 2-3 versus the 2-4 6 times. Like, those little details about Weiss Schwarz are cocaine to my gamer brain. Like, I'm a cocaine bear when I'm at locals playing Weiss Schwarz because of the statistics, because of the RNG, because of wanting to get that beautiful line that absolutely fucks up my opponent, even though he could still get lucky. I love Weiss Schwarz. It's my favorite game in the whole world. I would rather play that than Apex Legends. I'd rather play that than Bloodborne. I would play Weiss Schwarz 24 hours a day if I could.
So he ranks it highly, in case people couldn't tell, which for me, I've also played a lot of things. I've played Flesh and Blood for a little bit. I played Card Fight, and I still have my Card Fight deck. I played Magic for a while, which I'm starting to get back into it. Played Yu-Gi-Oh!, Weiss, and a bunch of games that kind of just spurred up, didn't make it past the first box or two and died. Did a lot of those.
Shout out to Force of Will.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, the Force of Will, baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Man. The thing I love, though, is even with the luck mechanic in the game, you are guaranteed to at least play a match. Unlike with Yu-Gi-Oh!, you could get royally fucked and then just lose right off the bat and not get a chance. And it could happen to you for 2 out of the 3 games you're supposed to do in that time frame. You could just not win. And then you could get landlocked with, Magic. And there's a bunch of other things. But with Weiss, you might get stuck, but there's mechanics that will help keep the game going to help filter your hand. You got brainstorming, you got clocking yourself. There's searches. You got a lot of things that allow you to at least function and get the game going. And one of my favorite stories when I first got into Weiss was back in 2016, I think. There was a guy that took a trial deck and won a regionals because of the luck status. And it was I forget what deck it was, but it was like when Weiss was starting and we're just having the regionals, starting them. And a guy took a trial deck. Everyone had built decks. He took a trial deck and won. Was
this JP? This would have been JP, right?
No, this was English. Yeah, I believe it was English.
It would have had to have been Sword Art or Fate?
Yeah, somewhere around that time frame. Like at the very beginning of it, when it was starting to pick up, they were doing their first round of regionals.
That's so wait, actually going into regionals with a trial deck and winning is the most based shit I've ever heard.
And obviously no one's ever done it again because, power creep and all that stuff. But the point of you could literally pick up a deck and win. You don't need to know anything. You could just pick up a random trial deck, learn the basics, and just win. I don't know if he swept, but he won. That's all I heard from it. And that was one of the things. And a lot of people confirmed that it was the truth. I just don't know what trial deck it was. I just know it was when the first or second year of Weiss when they were doing regionals and everything. It's it's one of those things that sends home that Weiss is always going to be my favorite game because you always have a chance.
It's funny. I was just at locals last night, and my friends Steven and Randall. Steven goes, "Hey, do you want to start the round over?" And Randall goes, "Why?" Steven had opened up 4 climaxes, right? And Randall goes, "Why would we start this round over?" And he shows Steven that he opened up 3 climax. The game that those two had following that was incredible. They had a really good game. And it was like this moment where I'm sitting next to them, just kind of like monitoring. Mm-hmm. Like they had like an 8-9 turn game. And it was like white knuckle to the very end, and like, it's that kind of stuff where Steven felt even better when he won, because it was like, bro, you opened up 4 climax running Nino 8 standby and you still won. And that's kind of the beauty of like, it wasn't just the luck in that moment. It's when you have those people in Weiss Schwarz that have been playing long enough to understand the math in any moment, the lines in any moment, best case scenario, okay case scenario, worst case scenario, you can see true genius card playing, where I do not see that level, the ceiling of intelligence. I don't see the ceiling of intelligence in other games quite like I do in Weiss Schwarz. Something to the opposite point though, I love Flesh and Blood for fixing the Yu-Gi-Oh problem. It really does feel like in Flesh and Blood, they were like, hey, RNG, pretty annoying. Let's make it so when you're going first or going second, like there's this balance that other card games don't have, which is why I loved Flesh and Blood in the beginning. I mean, and don't get me wrong, Chain was super broken, but it never felt so broken that it was like, oh, I'm just going to give up. That said, when you're bleeding out an hour-long game of Magic, holy smokes, dude. Get me out of the building. Like, come on now.
I could have, read up a college thesis at this point by the time we would have finished this game.
Yeah, literally. Magic's the GOAT game, but like, man, when you're just like, when you've lost and you have like another half hour to go, it's just like, yikes.
It's just like, I already sealed my fate. My fate's been sealed for like the last 20 minutes, but this guy's still going on the same turn. I'm just waiting for the time to finish out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, with Weiss, I want to talk power creep. I don't get to talk power creep a lot with people. And awesome. I've been around since 2016, 2017. And I've seen the power creep. Even when most recent sets, it's been kind of like, all right, especially when they brought Standby. Like, yeah, that kind of, blew and changed a lot of things and made the meta very prevalent for a while. What's your theory on it? Do you think it's going to keep getting worse? Do you think it's going to stabilize for a little while with new sets like Spy Family and other things that are coming out and already came out? Do you think it's going to stay the way it is for a little bit until next year around championship time? Or do you think there's going to be some dark horses that come out?
It's so interesting in Weiss Schwarz because I think that the biggest jump in power creep that I felt as a player was when Assault Lily finisher came out. And I remember distinctly feeling not like, how do I put this? I almost felt like, okay, like, wait, like I'm just never going to get to level 3 ever again. And this is now changed. This is actually changing the integrity of Weiss Schwarz, the game, when you have finishers that can almost reliably kill you from 2-3. I remember having a distinct repulsion to that when I first experienced it in Assault Lily. And I don't know if I'm in a boiling frog situation right now, but I truly am not bothered by Gura or Escanor in the way that I was last year. It's almost like I've begun to welcome it, where it's kind of a thing now where I'm like, that's fine. You can have Gura. I'm going to do a ton of, or Hendrix from 7 Deadly Sins. I'm just going to scam you in different ways. And, to that point, Weiss has such an incredible card pool that I don't doubt that there's people that could go back to a set like Persona 5 or go back to a set like my friend June. If he gets Railgun and he has a great opening, it does not matter if you're running Gura. He's just going to smoke you. There are certain ways to approach our card pool cleverly to where, yes, Gura feels toxic when it snowballs. Oshinoko, that mill 3 bottom every level 0 burn 2. Like that stuff can feel super oppressive, but the longer that I play Weiss Schwarz, the more that I'm open to the idea of adapting to these unbelievable finishers. So I do see the power creep. And in a lot of ways, I do think certain profiles are just dumb. Like Gura and Escanor to me, does it need to be in the game for Weiss Schwarz to be fun? Probably not. I think Weiss Schwarz might have been more fun for a lot of people before finishers like that. That said, you know what I mean? Like, I love it when someone pulls out Gura on me and I sack them. I love it. It feels great. So I'm mixed on it.
So when you were talking about the card pool, I realized something, because you weren't able to catch Worlds, but I was able to catch the first 5 or 6 matches that were streamed before Top Cut. Speaking of which, Top Cut took 2 hours, by the way, to like make them realize top 8. That was, anyway. There was a lot of variety. I did not see any mirror matches. I saw Adventure Time. I saw Avatar. I saw Quince. I saw Slime. I saw like the newer staples that we predicted. But there were a lot of things that came out of nowhere that were just there. And then they beat Quince. They beat, because I think from what I watched, Quintessentials went 0-4. Like no Quince won on the premier table.
Are we talking about Itsuki, Nino, both?
I saw Itsuki. I think I saw Nino. And I think there was one mixture. I don't remember what the last one was, but there was a mixture one. None of them won. Like, they were close matches and they were doing what they needed, but they just didn't win. It was the other deck. Like, Avatar won, Slime won, and I forget the other ones because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. But the point is, people didn't mirror match. And I think, were you at Worlds last year? I think there was a lot of mirror matches going on, if I remember correctly.
Slime for days, it felt like.
Yeah, I was happy because there was none of that. There might have been like off camera, like off in the, in the rafters and stuff, but like none on screen. There were no mirror matches, which was fantastic.
Bushy Road propaganda, just like 90% Gura.
It's just all Gura.
Hey, all the Gura players go into the broom closet.
So I was happy with that. Now, with the upcoming sets, ones that came out, do you think that there's going to be any standalone that are coming out? Were you able to see what any of the new sets coming out yet? Or
okay, so the things that like Free Ren and Spy Family for me, I go back and forth on because Free Ren's like let's just burn 4 forever. Like that scares the shit out of me. The lethality of any finisher that's just like burning 4 reliably. Like if you actually look at like the statistical breakdowns of how effectual those are, because I was kind of a disbeliever. I was hating on my friend because he was like all into burn 4s, and I was like, I hate burn 4s. You always overswing, blah blah blah. And he literally broke down the statistics at your certain health points, the number of swings, number of instances, and I'm like, oh shit, burn 4 really is like statistically and arguably cooking. Like that's a crazy finisher. Set like Spy Family, having an early play that heals twice is insane. Like that in terms of power creep is bananas. And then you look at Chainsaw Man and Makima Brainstorm is just like flavor for days. I love that they built that mechanic in for Makima. I just think it's like perfect. But I see a situation similar to Alice Brainstorm where 100% there's going to be some choice restrictions. There has to be, because even me running my own kind of setup for Kanata Marine, which has been awesome. Like I beat 3 Worlds qualifiers in the past 3 weeks with my Kanata Marine build with their decks they brought to Worlds. And it was like sacked in some situations. Even with that deck, looking at what's coming with Spy Family, Chainsaw Man, Free Ren, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I can do all that. Like Spy Family is cooking. Like, I don't know. And I'm also seeing like a kind of reawakening of Mocha right now, where people are truly realizing like Mocha is crazy. Like truly, like stock swap can be a scam, but Mocha is so pure, especially when it works.
So I got a couple more questions and I think we'll start wrapping up. First thing, how do you feel about, well, I guess, what is it? Like English exclusive sets. How do you feel about that? Because we've kind of gotten, short end of the stick when it comes to the exclusive sets. What have your thoughts been so far, and do you think there'll be any more?
I'm so disappointed that Avatar didn't get voice actor signatures. Ruby got voice actor signatures. You know, you got Lindsay Jones with her Crayola crayon. Lindsay Jones. And, you know, we got that. And Avatar, you know, English voice actors are not in America like how Seiyu and Seiyus are in Japan, right? Like, it's not like they're at the caliber celebrity-wise or price-wise in America as they are in Japan. So I couldn't believe that they could not manifest the Avatar signatures. I was like English voice actors should have been easier. That legitimately should have been easier for you to get. And it wasn't. And that to me was like a major letdown. It was really nice to see Avatar represented at Worlds. I think Azula, if I had to put my full salt hat on right now, I think Azula is probably the most like bannable thing in Weiss Schwarz right now. Like hard ban, like the Sokka Azula is just like, bruh, like, come on now. What are we doing here? That's a different topic. Ruby Premium is definitely a step back from Avatar. Let's be honest. It's cool that Ruby got a power-up set, and I know friends that are doing really cool things with Ruby. The Restander, the John, everything. Like Ruby, if it gets some more tools, will be a good set. So for the game, I think it's great. That said, as a collector whale, I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do with Ruby Premium? I'm not going to collect this. Collectors aren't buying Ruby Premium. I mean, let's be real, 10% of Ruby people. Ruby is not like, you know, it's not going to be making LGS have a line out the door. Let's just be honest about it, you know? So yeah, I think we could have gotten something more exciting, is my point.
The next question is, out of all the decks you have built up to this point, at the day of February 4th, what has been the most fun deck you've ever built? Doesn't have to be meta, doesn't have to be, but what is the most deck you've had fun with, and one you've had the most memories with?
I have so much fun with all of my HoloLive decks. I think I just call Weiss Schwarz HoloLive the game at this point, because you have infinite tools in this card pool, right? It is unbelievable the amount of profiles that we have. And I think I would say the most fun deck I've ever built would be my past iteration of the current deck that I'm running, where I added this 2/1 Botan that you mill top 3, and if you hit a climax, you can sack either an early play or a level 3 character. And so I bring Botan out, I sack my opponent's Rushia, which is huge, and he's like, oh, wait, what? Let me read the card. I love when they want to read the card because you know they're pissed. So we sack that huge Rushia that he thought I had no answers for, and then it's an anti-early play as well. So I crash my Botan, which takes out another Rushia. And this guy had a lock on the game. That was one of the most fun games I'd ever had, just introducing that Botan into my mix, having it go off the first game, because you know what it's like when you have a 2 of or a 1 of in a deck that you never see. And it went off the first time. He was in an unbeatable situation, and he got trounced. And it felt so good. And I would say so that was like the most fun. And then like the current deck that I'm building right now, which is an iteration of that without the 2/1 Botan, this is my favorite deck I've ever played in a game, because it was my level 0 game, my level 1 game, my cooking, and I'm beating world qualifier decks twice in a row with it. And Kanata Marine is like kind of brain dead. Sure, like everybody knows Kanata Marine is good, but it's the way that I get to Kanata Marine, the way that I keep board, the way that I'm clean cutting things that are 6k power, like there's a lot of like little things that have just been the last 3 years of me playing this game that is like my flavor of Kanata Marine, and that's why I like it.
It's good stories like that, man. I love hearing, because especially when you cook for a while, then actually you get to see it. You see the fruits of your labor. That's what makes it really nice. And I agree with you with that infinite card pool that we have in this game, because there's so many combinations and so many sets, and we keep getting more sets. There's more. There's so many renditions of decks that can be made, even with simple tweaks here and there. One of my favorite ones was from the Sunshine era there was a Yohane that you had to play rock, paper, scissors, and you had to lose. That was the big thing. You had to lose. And I remember I played a tournament at my locals, and I won because I kept losing that rock, paper, scissors. So I had to lose to win. And that's like, even in my like Sunshine deck that I have with all the meta stuff and everything, I still have a one of that Yohane in there. So that way I can just randomly pull it out and, you know, see if RNG's really with me. The last question I want to ask. Do you have any plans for 2024 when it comes to content creation? Whether it be for Weiss, Pokemon, any other card games? Is there anything you want to drop hints on? Is there anything you want to talk about? Go for it.
I can hint at this. 3 or 4 weeks from now, the biggest Weiss Schwarz video that has ever been produced is coming out. I got looped in on it, and it's the most flabbergasting, simultaneously kind of frustrating because of the circumstances of this video. And it won't be clear now, but when the video gets released, like, I'm frustrated for reasons, and you know, I'm also happy about the result of everything that's going on. But the biggest Weiss Schwarz video that's ever been produced is coming out, and I think a lot of people that that thought Weiss Schwarz was a dead game because One Piece came out are going to be very confused by the spotlight that's about to be placed on Weiss Schwarz. In terms of personal content creating, I'm at this weird crossroads right now where I'm 36, I have a son, I have a successful business, and I'm trying so bad to get 5 to 6 hours a week to create content for TikTok, for Instagram, to be an admin, a mod on Weiss Schwarz Global, to be in Discords, to have the conversations, to be at locals. And it's getting really tough finding that space to create all the content that I create to the level that I want to be creating it, you know, because I don't want to be putting out shit videos. It's been really hard to find the space. And I think that this year is really going to be the year where I figure out if I want to truly be like a content creator to the extent that I am right now. You know, of course I always want to be in the community. I'm always going to collect. I probably have one of the largest Weiss Schwarz collections in North America, but I just don't know that set reviews and, you know, spending $1,000 on a case unboxing and kind of carrying the torch as much as I've tried to for all the different things that I care about. I don't know that I have it in me to just keep plugging away, because what it's resulting in is like 60 hours a week. It's eating into the time that I get to be a dad. And it's been like, I don't want to abandon what I've built. Like, I have 100 million global lifetime views, and I never in a trillion years thought I would have something like that. And it's just weird. Like, I feel like I have no choice at this moment, where it's like, if I'm averaging 2-3 million views a month in December of 2024, I'll probably continue. If the pages are sub that bare minimum, I'll probably just, you know, just resign to posting pics, you know, being like anybody else, going into my story, being like, hey, I'm doing a thing, but like not spending 10 hours editing stuff. You know what I mean? I hope this makes sense. Probably didn't sign up for this emotional rant.
No, it's fine. Because right now in the creator space, there's a lot of people resigning and doing stuff like that. One of my favorite video game content creators, Moose Knuckle.
The best, Matt. Oh, I was going to say Matt Pat.
Oh, yeah, Matt Pat too. That's another perfect example. They all realize they've spent so much time on this that their kids are getting away from them. And they want to spend that time. They want to make those memories. And I would never knock anyone for that. That is your life. Yeah, this is what your life led up to, but it's okay to stop. It's not like you are contractually obligated to keep on doing this. And I always tell people, and I tell my friends constantly, you have a family, focus on your family. They got to come first. And I get it if it's an like an income source, but you gotta figure out how to manage it and slowly wean off. That's how I look at it. If I ever have a wife and kids to that point, Like, that's how I'm going to look at it. I got to make time for them. They are the rock. They are what I need. And I need to give that time. Because I don't want to miss out on my kid walking. I don't want to miss those first words, you know? Like, so I totally get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, it's really hard, man. And it's like, I can't remember how my friend Tyler Horspool, he won the first Flesh and Blood: The Calling. He had some really funny way of putting it. He was like the curse of good fortune or something like that, where it's just like you have the blessings, you know what I mean? And you're just kind of like, there's such a thing where you end up in a position where it's like, there's just too much happening and life is fucking finite. Like, and a lot of people that hear this stuff in their 20s will not know what I'm talking about. These are the people that watch Free Ren and don't understand why it's sad, or like how beautiful it is that it's exploring how fleeting this all is. But my hours in the week are now calculated down to the minutia. Like, it's like sleep, eat, drive, work, email, call, maybe locals, no locals, go to the park, go home, get dinner, have a relationship with your wife, sleep. Like, there are no more hours for me in the day sometimes. And that's why this year it's like, look, if I can get my pages in a non-huge time commitment way, maybe some chat GPT thing comes out where I'm like, hey Siri, caption my video so I don't fucking have to, because that takes 45 minutes. If I can do that, then honestly I could continue doing this, because then I would just be filming an unboxing, throwing it into Premiere, and it would be like, hey Siri, I'm Joey from Pokemon. Do the red eyes black dragon. You know what I mean? Like, if I can do that, then it's just like, it's no problem. But as of right now, it takes me 3.5 hours to edit any video. And if I post 5 times a week, that's 20 fucking hours, man. Like, it gets to a point where it's just like, I'm also running a business. Like, I'll be in board meetings, like with companies that are like really paying my company a lot of money to think high level thoughts. And I'll be sitting there like thinking about why Oshi isn't coming to English. And my brain is sitting there like, you asshole, if this client fires you, people could get fired. Like, you need to be paying attention and not be thinking about Free Ren getting SIGs in English. Like, so I'm like in this really weird fork in the road right now where 2024 is going to be the year. Either I'm going to plow forward because I'm going to figure out my workflow, or it's going to be, I'm just going to be any other guy on the internet, sometimes randomly posting stuff.
Well, my eggs are in your basket. I believe in you. And
Thanks,
even if you got to end it, like I said, I support you, especially because family comes first. As what is it? Don says, family. I think that's the best way to put it. So go ahead and plug your socials. I'm going to have the stuff up top, but go ahead and plug what you want. This is your time.
Sweet. Alex_Hodges on TikTok. Alex Ketchum on Instagram, which is Alex KETCHEM. And on YouTube, I think it's just like Alex Hodges YT. I need to unify that. What am I doing?
That's a problem for later on down the road. Don't worry about it. That's not a today problem. That's a later problem. Well,
for
Alex,
sure,
thank you for giving me your time. I appreciate us talking for an hour and some change. It's nice to sit back and like talk Weiss with some people, you know? It's always nice just to hit some ideas and get some other opinions. So thank you for giving me your time of day. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry for talking your ear off, and I'm glad we finally got to connect the dots, dude.
Hey, man, I'm always down for it. But all right, you all know what to do. Go follow them on all the socials, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.